What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. One thing that I've come to learn as I keep making more videos and get to know more of you in the process of growing this channel is that everyone has such a unique experience, of course, when it comes to life in general, and also specific to private practice. So, I could share my experience with you all until the cows come home, but there's gonna be other experiences that I haven't accounted for in my own story. So I thought it would be really interesting to ask you all what you were most surprised by in private practice. So I put a poll out on Instagram specifically asking therapists in private practice what their biggest surprises were. It could be positive, negative, in between, just whatever it was that surprised you the most. And in today's video, I compiled all of those responses together and I'm gonna share them with you all. What I ended up doing is I took all 30 responses that I received and I tried to kind of loosely categorize them because there were definitely some themes that popped up in your responses. All right, so without further ado, let's get into some of these categories of responses. By the way, all of these responses are anonymous because, you never know. If you're complaining about something, you might not want somebody seeing your name affiliated with it. Anyway, now you'll notice as we go through these categories, some are kind of positive surprises and some are not so positive. I've organized them based on which ones had the most responses in a category and then going in kind of descending order. Let's start on a high note though. There are two categories that are tied up as far as how many responses they got, and one's positive and one's not so positive. So let's start with the positive one, which is that life is better now, or just generally that private practice is easier than I thought. There were 6 responses in this category, and let me just read them off to you. One person says, how drastically better my work-life balance became. I mean, obviously, of course, that's what I love to hear. That does align with my experience, so I'm not surprised hearing that. Another person says, how easy it is to set up. My previous employers had done a lot of fear mongering. This one also kind of bleeds into one of the other categories that we're gonna touch on later, but to sum up this part, it is so easy to set up. Another person says, how much I liked it! Exclamation point. Yes, it's fun. It can be great. And somebody else says, I was surprised it was more simple than my previous supervisor led me to believe. Again, we're kind of touching on one of the other categories we're gonna get into in a little bit. Somebody else says, the snowball effect actually happened, which I'm making an inference here that this person means the snowball effect, referring to how word of mouth can sort of build up over time. So, if I have 10 people on my caseload and all 10 of those people have a really great experience, maybe 1 or 2 of those people is gonna start advocating to their friends, their loved ones, their friends of friends, hey, if you need a therapist, go see Marie. And then if all of those people have a good experience, they're gonna spread your name. At least I think that's what this person meant in their response. Let me know if you know about some other type of snowball effect. And this maybe doesn't belong in this category then. And the last response in this category, someone says that virtual practice can also be successful. After COVID, I am full-time virtual. I would say before the pandemic, that would have surprised me as well. I mean, people had been doing it. Shout out to Dr. Therese Moscardo, my friend who's been doing that for a lot longer than just the pandemic. So it's obviously possible, but the pandemic really proved that. Let's move on to the next category, which is not as glistening and positive as the one we just went over. So the next category of responses I labeled as therapist competition and isolation. So obviously people had different kinds of responses in this category, but I feel a sort of thread amongst these. And this also has 6 responses in it. So let me just go ahead and read some of the responses. You can get a picture. One response says, therapists said they would be available for support and to talk, but never call back. Networking is hard. So I'm assuming this person's saying like a fellow colleague therapist said they'd be available to kind of network and they just kind of ghosted. I'm so sorry that happened. Another person said they were surprised by how many therapists see you as competition. I am surprised by this too. And please, since we're here talking about it, can we make it stop? Can we make it stop? Thank you. We're all friends. There's such a need and we can support each other. Anyway, okay, let's keep going. Somebody else says a group private practice isn't necessarily automatically less isolating than being a solo private practice. Yes. Another person says just plain and simple, how isolating it can be. And somebody else after them says loneliness. Yes. If we're not intentional by design, this career is very isolating, especially if we're working in private practice. So we do need to be intentional about surrounding ourselves with support, and I would say specifically therapist support, and specifically therapists who aren't treating you like your competition. So again, that takes work. It requires some intentionality to find that. And the last one, this one, I've had this experience too. The shade therapists and network with insurance, throw to those not. I'm not gonna trail off on this because I have a whole lot of things I could say about it, but basically this is a thing. Therapists who take insurance can be really have not so nice views towards those who don't, and sometimes vice versa. For the next category, I'm not so sure if it's necessarily positive or negative. It probably depends on who you ask, but I've labeled it the land of many hats, which basically just means that in our role as therapists in private practice, we wear a whole lot of hats. We're not just a therapist, we're a lot of other things. So here's some responses people gave in this category. Someone says, I never knew I could learn so much about business, insurance, finances, marketing, etc. I mean, yes, the list really does go long. It's kind of incredible how many different things are involved when it comes to running a private practice. Somebody else says, I'm most surprised by the business knowledge I needed. Yes, you definitely need business knowledge when you run private practice because it is a business. But it is really surprising how many therapists are surprised by that piece. And I was one of those people. In 2012, when I started my private practice, I just thought like, yeah, you throw your name on Psychology Today and you just fill up, and that's the business part. Some people are fortunate enough that they can just fill up from Psychology Today, but usually it's a little bit more complicated than that. Somebody else says, how many opportunities and ways there are to be creative. Now this one kind of sounds like a positive framing, and I kind of put it in this category because it does sort of sound like, yeah, there's so many different ways you can manifest your interests, your skill sets, and all of that in private practice beyond just sort of if you're working for an employer and, you know, there's kind of productivity quotas and just sort of a certain way of doing things. And the last response in this category, someone says, how many different roles I have to take on. So yep, just driving this point home. I think we covered this enough. There's a lot that goes into running a private practice. And the next category I'm loosely labeling taxes and admin. Let's just read some of the responses. One person just says in all caps, taxes. And somebody else says more specifically, estimated quarterly taxes, which is confusing because in your whole life, if you never had a business before, you just pay taxes once a year, and then suddenly you open your doors for private practice and you're supposed to pay them 4 times a year. Like, what is that? And also in the sort of admin category, somebody says how much I don't understand about liability insurance and picking a policy that is for me. Yeah, that was one of those things I got hung up on when I first got started, and it's like the limits of like $1 million versus 3 million. There's a slash, and like, what does that mean? And like, I don't know, do I need help for like $3 million of coverage? And what things do I need coverage for? I get it. And somebody else says, finding an office mostly. Mind blown emoji, but your videos help me with decorating up. Thanks. If you've never looked for a therapist office before and suddenly you're doing it all on your own, it is hard because there are a lot of things that you need in order to protect confidentiality, to have kind of a warm and inviting space. I mean, you probably want a waiting room, for example. There's a lot of factors that go into finding an office, and if you make a list of them, at any given time, there may only be so many places available. Okay, the next category, of course, is no surprise to me because I talk about this all the time, but folks saying that marketing is hard. Yes, I know marketing is hard, especially, it just, what is marketing? Like, so let's see some of the responses people gave in this category. Somebody says, I was surprised by how slow it took to get clients. I mean, yes, this is a common sort of complaint people share. There are ways to make it less slow, but a lot of people go through this experience. Another person just says, how hard it is to get clients. Yes, it can be hard to get clients, especially if you don't have a honed in marketing strategy. And the last response in this category stands out to me. They said, I have to give a sales pitch on the first call. I don't think I've ever felt like I've had to give a sales pitch. I just kind of say, like, tell me what you need help with. Here's how I think I might be able to help you. Here's what's involved on your end to make it happen. Do you have any questions? Are you interested, or do you want to get back to me later? I never quite feel like I'm giving a sales pitch. You know, I kind of pass the ball in the other person's court after giving them some information and they can decide. But I am really curious to hear how that experience differs from therapist to therapist in private practice. So feel free to leave a comment below about that. Okay, another category of responses that came up is that boundaries are tough, which is true no matter where you are, no matter who you work for, whether it's yourself or somebody else. If especially you find it hard to set boundaries with yourself, then it's only natural that it might be hard to set those boundaries in your practice. So here's some of the responses people gave in this category. Somebody said, how hard it was going to be to have boundaries with my scheduling. Work early/late to ACC. I don't know what 2ACC stands for, but they're saying to work early/late. Like, I used to do that kind of split shift day before having children specifically. That really worked well for me for a while, and then I had kids and that just absolutely wouldn't work for me now. But if that wasn't the schedule that you wanted and then you feel like you're pushing your boundaries, I mean, that would just be a nightmare. You can work during whatever hours you feel like working, and there's a way to make it work if it's important to you. Somebody else says how hard it is to turn off work mode. Ooh, that's a tough one. When it's your own business, it's like your own little baby. You're not working for somebody else. It's on you to kind of keep on top of everything. These days, also with folks working from home so much with virtual practices, then it might kind of feel harder to kind of separate your work life from your home life, literally, because you're working from home. So I see how that could be tough. And the last response in this category, someone says, how guilty I'd feel about taking mental health days, even though I advocate my clients to do this. Oh, I still feel guilty about taking days off, I'll be honest. And at this point, I'm only seeing clients 1 day a week. So for me, if I need to take that day off, it feels like I'm doing the equivalent of taking a whole week off. I always advocate for people to prioritize their mental health, their physical health, just their health, their life. But the guilt is real. And the last category I've labeled as demand for insurance. Just basically people commenting on how there seems to be a demand for insurance and that kind of impacts their practice. So one person says they were surprised by how mad people get about me not being credentialed with their insurance. I am a little surprised to hear this because in all my days being a therapist in private practice, I've not once had somebody complain that I wasn't on their insurance. Certainly people ask me about whether I accept their insurance, but I've never had like pushback on that. So I'm curious what kind of factors might, factor into that different experience, but that would be really tough if, potential clients were kind of giving me pushback on that. Okay, and then similar, the next response, how many people only wanted to get therapy if covered by insurance? So similar experience. And then somebody else says, kind of on the flip side, how quickly their caseload filled by taking insurance. So yes, I've definitely heard this. If you are on insurance panels, it can generally be easier to fill your practice more quickly. But it is interesting to hear how much pushback people are getting about not being on insurance panels. Now, I have one more response that didn't quite fit into this category and didn't quite fit into any of the other categories, but this seemed to be the closest category that it fit into. The person said, my clients bargained for fees. I wasn't prepared to deal with that. Who is prepared to deal with that? This response, it kind of both surprises me and it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, bargaining is not so uncommon, but it also does surprise me because in my experience, again, in 10 years of private practice, I've only ever had one person attempt to try to bargain my rate down, and I've actually been surprised myself to find that, generally speaking, my clients are willing to pay my full rate even when they qualify for my sliding scale. It generally requires me like 2 or sometimes 3 prompts with some of my clients to let them know that they may qualify for a sliding scale. I don't know if it says something about, who my ideal client is or what. If folks were kind of constantly bargaining for fees, that would bug me. I don't know, is there a marketing thing with that? Who knows? Well, that covers all of the responses that people sent into this question. Thank you for offering your responses if you did. It makes videos like this possible. Obviously, people's responses were all over the map, which I think is real. It's representative of what life is like, what starting a private practice is like. Experiences are gonna differ based on so many factors, based on your personality, your skill sets, maybe also things like where you live, how densely populated it is, who your ideal clients are, things like whether you're on insurance panels or not, or offer a sliding scale or not, or what your marketing strategy is. I mean, so many variables. So it makes sense that given all of these different kinds of variables, people are just gonna have all kinds of different surprises and experiences. And I do have videos about a lot of the different things folks named in this video. So if you're needing help with something that somebody mentioned, go ahead and check the description box below. I'll just link to any videos I've made before that are relevant to what we've brought up today. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes covers all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. You can charge your client's card on file, and they have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, whoever you are and whatever it is that you're doing with your career right now, I hope you found this video helpful and supportive. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.